we move to a different level of discussion. We invite Larry to talk to us about this green economy. Larry, what is this green economy? Green growth? What is all this that's being sold by the snake oil salesman that's going to save us from climate change? Floor is yours.
Thanks, Shaul. It's really good to be here with some old friends, Shalmali and Iang and Knit and the interpretation, and Iang's chicken, of course, in the background. So I'm really glad to be here. Shaul, can I share my screen? Because I have some pictures.
Yes, of course.
I'll just turn on my screen share then. Yeah, okay, cool.
I think do that. Iang, that's possible. Ah, there we are. Thank you. It's working fine.
Great.
Oh, I'm so glad you got a good symbol for Mao. Excellent.
Yeah. No, I was inspired by Mao's cat symbol, so I looked for my own cat.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. As Shaul said, I'm going to be talking about this sort of very general, very worldwide thing, which is called by many names, but one name is the green economy. And I'm going to be trying to talk about why in many ways it's a new colonialism. So, hello, and welcome to my company, Larry Corp. Larry Corp, like many other companies, can make a profit only if it reaches out and grabs cheap raw materials and grabs cheap labor. Of course, that's not always so easy. I have to convince governments to give me free land. And I have to separate people from their land and hire police and militaries and lawyers to make sure the labor costs are low. So don't think it's easy for me. These costs add up. But luckily, these costs are less than they would be if I didn't have the state and the military helping me get nature and labor cheaply. That's what I love about colonialism. People always complain about colonialism, but don't forget that colonialism made Dutch and British and US and French business what they are today. Without the armies and treaties of colonialism, we would not have today's great world economy. And the same colonialist spirit makes my company, Larry Corp, great too, especially since after the Chinese economic reforms of 1979 and the Soviet collapse of 1989. After that, me and my friends in the state no longer really needed the ideas of national development or workers' rights to show that we were better for the people than communism. So it became even easier for me to grab cheap nature and create lots of new cheap labor anywhere I wanted throughout the globe. Now, with new trade treaties, dumping arrangements, global value chains, and export-oriented policies, everything can be made in the world in the cheapest possible way. Isn't that what the WTO says? But there are still a few problems we have to work on. Around the world, especially since the 1960s, people have been resisting the environmental damage that I cause. And because of that, states have been forced to promise to regulate me. So now we have all these new environment ministries everywhere. And so many environmental laws that it gives me a headache. Me, I don't have any opinions about the environment. But all this resistance and all these new laws threaten to increase my costs and lower my profits. Okay, I have to be honest. I admit I can still make a profit even with this new regulation. Because me and my friends already made sure that the new post-1960s regulations around the world are not really serious, including the new international climate laws under the UNFCCC. But still, I feel like these laws are a little unfair to me. Why should I have to make less money just because of what some scientists or protesters think? Only to protect a few humans? Only to protect the world? That's crazy. What matters is profit over the next 3 to 7 years. That's what's important. Me and my friends also have to worry that environmental laws might get even more expensive to obey in the future. So, starting back in the 1970s and continuing to today, me and my friends in the state and universities and some Washington NGOs agreed it was time to take action against these laws. We couldn't get rid of environmental laws. We couldn't stop environmental protest. It was too late for that, but we had an idea. If the laws are too expensive and we can't get rid of them, maybe we can change them so that it becomes cheap to disobey them. Suppose the law says I have to rebuild my factory so that I don't destroy the environment around it. Why can't I just tell the state that instead of rebuilding or stopping damaging the environment, I can just hire someone else to clean up the environment after I use it? Look at it this way. When I'm in my house, I like to make a mess, and I don't want to stop making a mess. I have more valuable things to do. But it's okay, because I can get my wives or my Filipino maids to clean up after me for low pay or no pay. So why can't I get a cheap maid service to clean up the damage that results from my manufacturing and energy use? And convince the government that this is just as good as following their environmental laws. Maid service. That gives me an idea. I'll call it environmental services. Cool. So now, instead of just grabbing cheap natural resources and cheap labor, I can also grab cheap environmental services to help clean up my mess. And of course, I can also grab the people who take care of those environmental services. I can have it all. So, for example, I can hire climate services. Carbon dioxide from my factories can be soaked up by forests, by land, by other aspects of nature, which are tended to by ordinary people. Or biodiversity services. If I'm destroying biodiversity in one place, I can find some biodiversity services in another place to compensate for that and make it okay. So, when the state, with environmental movements behind it, points the finger at me, I can point at my environmental service slaves. I can say, it's their job, not mine. The best part is that all the different environmental maids are forced to compete with each other to provide the cheapest environmental services for me. Just like all the copper and coal producers have to compete with each other to provide me with cheap raw materials. That means environmental service providers will have to become more and more efficient. Wow. Suddenly, obeying the law is not so expensive for me anymore. I can be just as dirty as I was before and still legal, because now I have a green economy working for me. And with the extra money I save, I can grab even more cheap nature and even more cheap labor. Cool. In fact, in the ideal world, every tree could work for me twice. First, in order to make a normal commodity, like paper. And second, to perform an environmental service, to tell the government that I don't need to obey their environmental laws. See, colonialism's not dead, it's even expanding. But does this new colonialism solve any environmental problems? No, of course not. More than 20 years of research has shown that the green economy is only making the environmental crisis worse. You can't clean up CO2 by eliminating methane, CH4. You can't clean up the destruction of one species by throwing people out of the habitat of another species. You can't clean up the devastation of one forest by an unfulfillable promise to conserve another forest or set up an industrial plantation. And does the new colonialism of the green economy stop environmental conflict? No, of course not. It only fools some middle-class people. People on the ground are protesting the green economy as much as they protested the old brown economy. But who cares? Not me. Solving environmental problems is not the point of the green economy. The point of the green economy is to delay. That's why I like it. So welcome to my company, and welcome to the green economy. I hope you like it too.
Wow, thank you, Larry. I have to say, you looked very convincing as Larry Corp. Can we buy shares into Larry Corp?
We'll be having a public offering very soon. I'll let you know if you give me your contact details.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Well, Larry, before we move on to Susan, I just took, you explained the overall concept of the green economy excellently. Thanks. Can you point to a couple of examples that you know across Southeast Asia, just one or two?
Yeah, I think one of the easiest examples to understand are these forestry projects, which are called RED, or Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation, which is a program, an absurd program that has been around for a long time, very much supported by various UN agencies, very much supported by northern governments, including Norway and many others. And the idea is to say to industries in the global north in particular, it's okay, you can go on polluting. What we will do is we will absorb the carbon in forested lands or in industrial plantations in some other place. So Norway can continue to go on using oil and drilling oil as long as it invests millions of dollars in the Indonesian state. And the Indonesian state gives Norway some promises to, plant some trees or to establish plantations or to conserve forests and so forth. So, I mean, this program has been going on for a long time. It's never, it's never done anything but be a miserable failure from a environmental point of view and from a people's point of view. I mean, forest communities around the world, everywhere that these kind of programs have been implemented, have been very concerned that their access to the forest is being cut off or restricted, or even the forest is being destroyed, just so that carbon can be absorbed on their land to help make regulation cheaper for polluting industries in the global north. So that's a very, very simple and concrete example of what's going on with the green economy. I think Susan's going to be talking about manifestations in the ocean, so that'll be another specific example.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. And red is pretty